right, so the idea of a successful failure is an idea that I think everyone knows, but we don't normally talk about it. So I decided to share that experience, and it translates into a business context, as you will later see. But first, let's look at the pictures. One question that people ask me very often is, why am I doing this? My background is that I'm a positioning expert. We do a special form of corporate communications, very closely linked to reputation management. And what we do is, some people call it personal branding. We do personal branding for people who don't like personal branding, which is a different attitude to presenting yourself to the outside world in a more humble way, but also to raise your voice when important issues come around. So I'm using nature as my teacher because nature is such a big thing and much bigger than us. This is the road when we returned from the Karakoram in Pakistan. We were lucky. We were a bit earlier than this. And you see, if you use nature as a teacher, nature is always stronger than any of us. So all kinds of things can happen in business, like in our private lives. And sometimes we get hit, sometimes we're lucky. We might call it a success to come early, but who knows? Many things can happen. So why do we seek adventure? Why do we seek challenges? What is success, and why are we here? Big questions, and I have a small piece of maybe an answer or a direction of an answer. It would have been my third 8,000er peak. I started really late doing this high altitude thing. And my point of having been a mountaineer for my whole life was that I think the longer I do this, the older I am, the more I'm interested in really existential questions. And the higher you get into the direction of the death zone, there is the existential question really at your fingertips. Here we were a wonderful team of just 5 people from different countries. Bill on the left-hand side is from England. Then we have Rolf from Australia, myself from Switzerland, Stefan from Sweden, and Kim from Finland. And we went into this crazy, interesting, wonderful, and very important country, Pakistan. You may remember that this is the country that gave shelter to Osama bin Laden, and the Americans found him there and killed him in 2011. It's already a long time ago. The Pakistanis never forgave the Americans for having done this, and they still don't like them. Although there flows a lot of money into the country, and China invests like crazy, so there is money from all sides, but still they have very little money. Many people are really poor, and the inflation is more than 20% at the moment, and that makes life very difficult, for instance, buying food or gasoline. And you need a lot of gasoline because where we are going, this is really, really far away. You go from, you fly into Islamabad, and then from Islamabad, you take another plane, or in our case, we by car. It's 13 hours. And then you go by Jeep. And then after you have been delivered by Jeep, as you will see in a second, then you need to walk, and you walk for 8 days into the Gasherbrum II base camp, which is near the K2 base camp, but it's 2 more days to go there. So the K2 is here, the little red dot, and we went this fork thing here to the very end of the glacier. It's a disputed area. China, India, and Pakistan claim that it's their area, and you see a lot of military. So this Gasherbrum Mountain is one of the 14 8,000ers. It has been summited only by 1,000 people. First ascent was 1956. It is technically not so difficult. Those who go up typically make it. If not, it's the weather. The weather is very unpredictable. And physically, it's absolutely challenging because the approach is so long. And we arrived in base camp. We were already, we were depleted when we arrived. But we're not there yet. So here's a quick glance to what we used as equipment. And there is a lot of food here sealed in those blue containers. This is my equipment. It's a lot. It was too much. I had very warm clothes and we didn't need them. A big group, and this is when a quick glance into base camp at arrival, where everything is shattered on the ground. Transport was first by minivan, then by jeep, then by mule, the equipment, not us. And then we carried everything ourselves. The support team is quite big. It's the relation is perhaps 1 to 2 point something. We had really, this was a luxury thing this time. I'm used to having a much smaller team and very little comfort, but this was very comfortable. We had kitchen boys, we had a cook, we had not only Pakistani high porters, but also 4 Sherpa from Nepal who were flown into the country and who helped to fix the route, for instance. And still, we kind of didn't reach our goals. Stefan, the whole group wanted to climb 2 8,000ers, and Gasherbrum II and Broad Peak. I didn't want that. I only did, well, my goal was Gasherbrum II. Stefan made Gasherbrum II. Bill didn't do anything. He returned from Camp 1. Kim from Camp 2 and me too. We departed from Camp 2 and then returned, as you will see. So the question is, if you have an ambitious goal and then you don't quite make it, how do you consider that? Do you still think it was a good thing? Are you still happy when you return? And I will share my feelings and my emotion with you as we go into this, into the more pictures. Yeah, so this is the question. And what we find here is that on the glacier, you already see that there were some difficult conditions. The little red flag indicates the secure zone. And here it becomes very, very, very insecure and very dangerous. And you see that it's glistening. And the glistening is an indicator, therefore, that it's warm, it's warmed up, it's hot, it's melting. But next picture shows you we're not there yet. This is only my picture for the success question, but we start here. So this was when the flight we wanted to take originally into the country was cancelled. Everybody who was on an expedition, it was only people with all their expedition gear on this flight, they needed to take a car. And the good thing was that we learned a lot about the country, and we saw tremendous things we wouldn't have seen otherwise. First thing, right out of Islamabad, direction Abbottabad, you start driving on the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, the Karakoram Highway. And this corridor is so interesting because this is what the Chinese built more or less, I could say, for themselves to get access to the oceans. And from China, it goes from north to south through Pakistan. And there is a lot of Chinese investment to also to create infrastructure for transport, and also a lot of energy and infrastructure for important goods like certain types of metals and other valuable goods. The Silk Road is not always a Silk Road, but you can already see that there is a lot of stone and dirt. But this is one reason why it takes such a long time. Another reason is that sometimes you are stopped and you have to make a payment. Here is someone who is called, they call themselves tourist police. And the reason for being is that they collect money from you. This is our camp manager and this is our driver, and they negotiate the amount of money they need to pay to continue. On this road, you see a lot of Chinese construction activity. And this is so interesting because I found that they invest really such huge amounts of money. This is supposed to be a hydro energy plant, like they build a dam and then collect the water that's coming from the glaciers, from the mountains. And what I think we saw was that there is, as we've been told, this seems to be prisoners or forced labor, and they sleep in tightly guarded camps and then work on these construction sites. There's lots of equipment, and this is all these are Chinese trucks. So you see it all over the place. One thing that I found personally very, very rewarding and interesting was that we crossed this point where three giant mountain rows of mountains meet. With here you see the Hindu Kush, the Karakoram, and the Himalayas, and there's rivers and valleys, lots of water meeting here. We go into the Karakoram, and there is the Indus River that we are walking along. First, we arrive in Skardu. Skardu is a small village, and you see that, yeah, this is a street life. You can buy, the shops are about carpets, about mattresses, about phones. Nothing much more. Oh. And then we continue.
Yeah, the Flintstones.
Good effort. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. This guy on the left, this dude on the left. Look at that guy. He's worth a photograph. Yeah.
Like the Flintstones.
It was good to have them because the road was not getting easier.
They say welcome back, Rolf. Yeah.
Yeah.
More hash, more hash.
Where have you been?
So on the road, we saw something that I found very impressive, which are these holes in the rock, and the holes are have been the people have been digging them because there is gold. They search for gold here, gold and lapis lazuli. And there seems to be a little industry here. You see a wooden bridge down there and a car, but I have no idea how they get up to this altitude here, because the rock is very slippery and difficult. So we arrive in our first night in tents, which is here camp, the Jola camp, and we are really happy and excited. As you see here, we have clean clothes, we have water for to brush our teeth, there is coffee and soap, so a great start. Yeah, this is something we didn't have later on. And here is another group, and they even have umbrellas because it's raining. So yeah, the perfect setup and equipment. Day 2. On day 3, the sun comes out and we can charge our solar panels. And this is so important because we are completely dependent on solar energy from here. And I have a great solar panel that everybody came and asked if they could charge on my solar panel. So I was well off in that respect. So we are not just the phones, but we personally were at that point in time fully charged. Then you have this amazing landscape here around the Trango Towers, the Trango Pyramid. It's this what seems brown this is all glacier. This is all the Baltoro Glacier. It is covered with dirt and rock. Now, day 5 of the trek on the Baltoro Glacier, we arrive here at this point where we can see K2 for the first time, the highest one on the picture. This is, it comes closer. And then we have here Gasherbrum IV, 2 really challenging mountains that require a lot of skills, more skills than I would have. Concordia Place, not the Concordia Platz that we know from Switzerland, but it has a similar function because it's a crossing for all the different routes. And the mules are changed. So there is lots of people who are mule drivers, and they have their mules here. There is food, and there's of course a lot of mule shit. So it's not a comfortable place. It's not a place where I would like to camp. Okay, me and K2. I'm still in a very good mood here. And then it becomes a bit more challenging because we see here how it continues, and it becomes that kind of darker and darker. There are no plants. There is nothing much green, and it's just rock, and giant distances, incredible large distance. Like you see here, we come from around that little corner here, and this you'll walk, and you cannot do much sightseeing because you have to watch your step. So I look down all the time, and if you do this for 7-8 hours without a big break, it's not such an easy thing. And even the goats were faster than I was. I tried to keep pace, their pace, and I talked to the guy if I could follow them, but they were still faster. And as I later learned, we have been eating them because one day at dinner we got meat, and this was these 2 lovely goats. So day 8 of the trek, I asked the guys who were going with us, the Pakistani, to play music from their phones because I was so bored and I needed a bit of motivation, and I was tired. We are at 5,000 meters here already, and it's not easy. This acclimatization process takes a toll. And they did. They have it recorded because there is no mobile phone coverage here whatsoever. The last antenna is in Concordia, and this is already 2 days away from Concordia. When we wanted to make WhatsApp, no, calls were not possible, but send and receive WhatsApp messages, we had to go these 2 hours, and then there was a rock, and if you held up your phone into the air, you had good coverage and could send and receive WhatsApp, and then you walked back to camp 2 hours. And this is our base camp. Base camp, as if you've seen other expeditions, is typically it's extremely large and shattered, and there is I don't know, up to 50 expeditions, and here are just 2. There came a couple more people over time, but it's in expedition terms, this is tiny. So a couple of tents here for guides and members. This is the mess tent, the yellow and white building. Then you have down there on the blue stuff, this is the toilets, which is really hard at night if you need to find them and go there, because it's kind of steep and you need to watch your step. There is a kitchen, there is a big tent for the Sherpa and for the Pakistani porters, etc. So this is our home, all in stone. And camp life on a rest day when it's sunny is quite nice. They play music. You put your sleeping bag on the tent because that gives you a bit of shade. The sun was burning hot. This is my little tent. The neighbors, the view up the mountain. And in my tent, I have it really nice and cozy. I'm famous for having a nice tent. I have a carpet and a cushion, and everything's kind of cleaned up because I need to be able to find everything at dark, and everything has to be in the same place wherever I go. I have this logic that I'm using everywhere. More impressions from camp life. This is again where you can brush your teeth and wash your hands. My tent order here is my medicine, and here's my superfood, and my bottle that I'm taking everywhere since I don't know how many years. My guys in our mess tent, and you see it is really nicely furnished. They did a great job in furnishing it, bringing in some color, and it's nice and warm. There is even green grass, artificial grass. But it's good to have the comfort, because what we are doing in the coming weeks is that we go up and down the mountain all the time. And this is for acclimatization, and it's also meant to help you become faster and get to know the mountain in a good way. So base camp is down here, very tiny, and we go up to the left, into the left upper corner. And these are called rotations. So first rotation, you go from base camp to camp 1 and back. Second rotation, you go from base camp to camp 1, continue to camp 2, then to camp 1, and then to base camp. You repeat the circle after a couple of days rest. And then finally, when you're fully acclimatized and the conditions are perfect, then you take that final summit push and you go from camp 1, 2, 3, 4, from 4 to summit, and then back to camp 1 and back to base camp as fast as possible. This plan was a great plan, but the weather didn't allow for it. But let me show you the route first. from altitude, this is now a view from Camp 1. It may look like base camp, but it's already, this is at 6,000 meters. So the route goes up here on the left-hand side, and then crosses the triangle and goes up to the summit. I show that in more detail. This is a picture from a previous year. There is very good conditions on this picture because the snow is hard and it is secure to climb. We had a different situation. As you see here, it's raining. So I had rain in base camp, which is 5,000 meters, and we had rain higher up. We also had very high winds. The winds were up to 100 kilometers per hour at the top, and that they were kind of warm. And that was a very unusual, crazy situation because no one had that before. Even the Pakistani who had been there many years said this is a first. We could only climb at night, so departure time is midnight, and you walk with or climb with your head torch. When it's daylight, it's already a tough situation because the snow is very heavy, and you see here some steep holes from your foot that goes into the snow, creates holes. Sometimes you fall into something and then disappear to your hip. The glacier. This is maybe 7 o'clock in the morning.
Tässä on se syy, minkä takia ylös kiipeäminen kesti niin kauan. On tosi haastavaa maastoa. Jää on täysin murtunut.
So this is my colleague Kim. You hear him breathing heavily, which is clear because the altitude is at this point maybe 5,600 or something. You see people roped up in teams of 3 for security reasons. If someone falls into a crevasse, there's still a chance that the other 2 can keep you. And this is at the time of the day, it's probably 7 o'clock in the morning. So the sun is out, and we would have to be much faster than this. But of course, the situation is this: you cannot run here. You have to watch your step very carefully. Eventually, you arrive in Camp 1, and in Camp 1 again you try and find some shade and put your sleeping bag on top, but it's pretty hot, and because we walked at night, it would have been very smart to sleep, but it was not really possible. So you lie there in your underwear and try and sleep. And you try and eat, and it's not so easy to eat up there because the appetite, disappears. Above Camp 1, this is how the situation looks like. You walk on a fixed rope, and the fixed rope has it's always 50 meters, and then comes an anchor, or most of the time it's 50 meters. Meant to give you a bit of support. You can pull yourself a little bit up on the rope, but mostly it's for security reason, because when you fall and you're clipped into the rope, then you fall a maximum of 50 meters and then come to a stop at an anchor point. What we experienced a couple of times here is that the anchors were hanging loose because the aluminum stick that is used to fix the rope, and that is typically very, very deeply planted and buried in the snow. It because of the heat, it just fell off. So that was potentially dangerous, but we were lucky nothing happened. Here you see again the guys going up here. Eventually you arrive here at this point where the rock, this is the banana, so-called banana ridge. You see the curve of the banana, and you could move on here and cross that corridor here. A different picture, different angle. You again see the rope here for some support. And also in this situation, there is this little rope thing, which helps a lot. Yeah, and then comes my highest point. This is my Camp 2 moment, so to speak, where where I met these guys from the Pakistan military. There is military all over the place because of the politically challenging situation in the area. And I really like them. They are commanded into that region for 6 months. I have this assignment for 6 months, and it's pretty boring. So they're kind of happy when some people arrive and give them company. Now comes a slide which is from a different presentation. I didn't make it because we didn't get there. This is Camp 3, and in Camp 3 I never went up higher up than Camp 2 because I was really listening to this guy, and this is Dennis Urubko. Dennis is one of the really famous climbers who mostly goes alone and does these solo ascents. He told me that it would be too dangerous to move higher up because of the weather conditions. And I was really influenced by this. He returned. He went away. He went back to Broad Peak and K2, tried them. This didn't work out. Then he spent a lot of time waiting, and then later summited solo on all those mountains. But that was when I was already back in Islamabad and Europe. So Dennis was together with our guides was a reason that I said, maybe I shouldn't do this. This would have been the summit pyramid, and you see the different routes here. The first ascent was the classic route, which we would have been taken, and that was in 1956 already. And then there was some other very famous climbers from Poland mostly who were successful on this peak. But we took down the tents and then returned. We returned back to the glacier, and then came this crazy moment where I made up. I had doubts about what to do, I have to say. And then we were here lying around, and none of us really didn't know what to do. And then Kim and Bill decided that they would return and go home and not attempt anything beyond their intuition, I would say. And I share that feeling, and I'm very conflicted about would it have been smarter to wait and then see what happens and then try again for the summit, or was it perhaps a better idea to pack everything up and go back? And here you see our empty tents and everything packed up. I was crying. I felt so bad about it. It was such a sad moment. And we tried to make fun of it. This is the three of us. Yeah, but no matter what, a return is a return. And if you don't reach your goal, it's always not. It's difficult. We were lucky though that we had kind of broken free from the expedition setup, and we had to find our own route. We had to find our own food. There was someone who was accompanying us from the Pakistani side, but we were very much on our own to return to civilization. And the great gift of this was that we had an incredible time, and it was so adventurous, and I loved every minute of it. So for the first night, after a 30-kilometer walk on the glacier, we ended up completely depleted, hungry, and we didn't really know where to go and where to put up our tents. And then these people came and said, "Oh, you can eat with us. Join us for dinner. We have a plate of rice." So here in the middle, I put up a plate of rice, and we shared. This is, here you see Bill and Kim, and this is Pasang Dava. She was on her way to her 8,000ers, later made it, very successful. And this is Zanu Sherpa, who was about to complete his second set of all 14 8,000ers. And you see them and you think, oh, maybe, this is a helping hand in the kitchen. No, this is a really famous guy, but he doesn't make a fuss about it. He's not, if I hadn't asked, he wouldn't have told me. So he kind of, he goes along and he does it, which is something that I really like. And when we talk about what is success and how public should you make those successes, you will see different examples in a few minutes. On our return, many of the bridges were broken that we had originally crossed. So we had to walk by foot. There were always people helping, and then they get a small amount of money for the helping hands. But not always, there wasn't always a bridge, so we had to cross this valley, and this is a glacier stream. I was crying because it was so cold. It was so incredible cold, and my pants became wet. It was high. This is the end of it, and I'm already rescued here by someone. Whenever you need a jeep, there is, for a miracle reason, there is always a jeep coming up.
You got all your bags?
You pay, and then there is a great bookkeeping system, so everybody who helps gets paid, and they absolutely take care of that they get fair shares and that everybody has some work to do.
Nyt tää tie
So off we
muuttuu vasta
go,
mielenkiintoiseksi.
the same
Tästä
road.
kulmasta aikaisemmin nähnyt. Tää sama tie mitä tultiin kuukausi sitten. Nyt ollaan aika lähellä reunaa koko ajan.
So here you see me standing because I lost a lot of weight, and sitting on the metal was so painful. I prefer to stand. And now comes my favorite moment of the expedition, which is another broken bridge. And we were put into this little wooden cage here, and then, or box, and then they pulled us over. Let me show you, when I arrived on the other hand side, I filmed Kim, and this is how it looks like. There's the bridge. Okay, he's arriving. All right. Yeah, and for whatever reason, there is a Jeep on the other hand side that we can use. So there is no mobile communication. There's nothing. It's just a miracle that they're so well organized and taking care of everything. It's just great. It's like like a taxi system in a way. All right, so at the end, this is how we look like. We lost really many kilos because it was a tough thing to do, but we were proud and we enjoyed ourselves. This is the end. This was my chair here. We have a bottle of Coke, as you see, the first bottle of Coke. So great. And our poor stomachs needed the Coke because this toilet paper was the most important accessory that we needed on the whole trip, because our stomachs got hit on day 3 of the expedition, and we had real big problems with our digestive system all the time. So the Coke is great. Then we go back by another Jeep at night to Skardu. And he played all these Arabic songs all the time, was driving like crazy, and I was kind of scared that there was a child or a motorbike or whatever coming, but it all went really well. And I had jumped to the last expedition picture. This was in Islamabad at my first burger. You have these really crazy wishes and cravings afterwards, and I paid it. I had so stomach cramps afterwards. It was really bad, but I enjoyed the burger nevertheless. So yeah, this is the question I'm asking myself, the question I want to share. How we have success and we have failure, and this is such a black and white thing. So how do we define it? There is people who go up those mountains with and this is the latest fashion. You take up to 11 bottles of oxygen. A bottle is 4 kilos and costs $800, so it's really expensive. You need 2 porters, and they take also a personal Sherpa, which is very expensive. A porter is about $4,600, and a personal Sherpa is above $6,000. So they equip themselves with all these things, and the question is this a successful attempt or a successful summit when you have all this support? Or is it probably more of a success if you go as high up as you can and then have no support? Or you say, like I used to say, I want to return happy and healthy, but I'm still have this nagging feeling that I could have done more. I didn't come back with serious health issues. That's a very positive thing. We didn't leave behind a trail of dirt. That's also some success element, I think, because the dirt you see here, gasoline canisters. And then there was this woman we met, an American from Oregon. She said, I go up by ski. We met her skinning up, and she said, I want to go down from the summit. I ski naked, and this gives me 250,000 more followers on Instagram. Yeah, interesting. I mean, it's an Islamic country, by the way. Yeah. So the question is, what is the definition of success, and who do we do it for? Is it to break records after record after record, like Nims Purja, who says, I did this 8,000 in a speed ascent, and I did a triple 8,000 like this, and I did this, and I'm breaking record after record. And then yes, you see those pictures here, and this is our cook, the guy who cooked for us in base camp. He has 65,000 followers on YouTube. So it's a whole new world out there. And these guys really know how to play the system and how to get the attention and the coverage that they like and love. And I personally, I came to believe that when we sometimes say in the Western world that the journey is the reward, oder der Weg ist das Ziel, I don't believe that anymore. I don't think so. I think it's kind of, I'm not saying it's an excuse, but it's an acknowledgement that something is missing. And this is the feeling of, I made it, I've been there, I've done it. So for me personally, the reward is the reward. And I'm asking myself now, what is my next crazy ambitious goal? Of course, I love it. And there is, I see that same thing happening in business, because I meet super interesting people and have the privilege to work with them on their vision and on their crazy ambitious goal. Let me show you an example of someone who produced this. This is a so-called vision board. And the vision board depicts your, let's say, next 12 months. What do you have as your vision that you want to achieve in this business? And this is a CFO who arrives, as we learn from this picture and its interpretation, who arrives in a company that has good elements like good numbers, bad numbers, and lots of initiatives going into very different crazy directions. And he brings fresh winds and delivers performance and has all his ducks in the row. That is his vision for the coming 12 months. And I can tell you from knowing the firm, that is crazy ambitious, because all the odds are speaking against it. And this is what I like, what I love, and I think we should all, yeah, go into this direction. So I want to close with my lesson learned. There's two kinds of people here. I see those who climb up to be seen, give me the followers, and then I'll ski down naked. And then there are those who climb up to see, because from the mountaintop you see about life and about the future. You see a bit into the future. The most important thing, says Sophie Lavaux, a famous climber, a French climber, she says, the most important thing is to come back and tell the story. Now, I've had the privilege to tell you my story. I would like to say thank you for listening. And I'm very, very curious to hear from you what you think about success and failure from your personal experience. So it's a question. If you need to put up, oh yeah, please. Sorry. Who of you wants to talk?
I think Tatjana was first. So Tatjana,
Okay.
you want to make a comment?
Okay, thank you. Well, thank you so much, Susanna. This was amazing, and thank you for the fabulous pictures. I mean, they speak for themselves, but to hear you explain everything about this this fantastic story and have it told to us with so much humility and vulnerability is really heartwarming and very moving. Well, thank you for that, first of all. And I think this question about success and failure is definitely something one could discuss days in a row. I actually have just one very practical question. Money. How much do you take? How do you take it? Which currency? How do you pay? I mean, it's you were there for many weeks. Many helpers need to be paid. Do some of them get paid in advance? I mean, obviously there's no credit card business or anything, so you have to have cash.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit more about that, just quickly.
Yeah, you have to. I took cash. I took $1,600. I took $100 notes because you get better exchange rate, and you have to exchange to convert everything into Pakistani rupees. I later learned that dollars are really not appreciated. The difficult thing is that you cannot take it up to the summit, the money, your passport, and all the documents like your flight tickets, etc., etc. So it's a system of trust, and it works really well. That yet you leave everything in base camp, and you have a lot of paper. It's not really digital. Dennis.
Great. Thanks, Susan, for sharing the story. And I've had a glimpse of some of those conditions many years ago when I did a hike to Everest Base Camp, and can relate to the gastro problems and so on. And as I was reflecting on your question of, well, what is success? I think success is making the right decision for the context you find yourself in at the time. Because people can get blinded by the goal and make decisions that result in disaster. So I think having that wisdom to make the difficult choices is also a success of maturity of thought and cognition, and realizing there are people who know the limits, I know my limits, and making the right decisions is also an element of success.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the hard part about it is that using social media, many climbers are putting up their successes, and then this creates a lot of pressure. So you feel like there's this peer pressure. They have done it. Why didn't I do it? And that, of course, makes decision making more difficult because you are pulled in different directions.
Mm-hmm.
Martin.
Yes, thank you, Susanna. That was a fantastic presentation. Makes me very envious of what you have experienced. Tell a little bit about how do you prepare for this trip in terms of training and nutrition, and how do you make sure you stay healthy? Can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah. So I started training 7 months before. I did running, lots of yoga for breath work. And also my most important prep was to do these very long walks, not necessarily high altitude, but very long walks, like 9 hours, and almost no food and very little water, to train my body to not need this stuff on the way. You cannot train for high altitude. Some people use oxygen tents in their home, which is expensive and it doesn't do much. I need to say, you gave me the advice to take better care of my, now what was it, not the metabolic,
So nutrition, how do you prepare your body for what you're going to have to eat?
The patch.
Later on, yeah.
What are you using the patch for? to the glucose levels, right? Yeah, this I didn't do, and this is something that I should have done because it would have helped me to get a better understanding of my needs in terms of food. I monitored my heart rate. I monitored my heart rate variability, and I have to say that it's still very low, so it needs to recover for quite some time. I think there isn't a good science for this optimization of nutrition, because you lose appetite at altitude, and the tendency is to don't eat, and that is of course very unhealthy. People eat carbohydrates like crazy, and I'm a person who doesn't like sweets, so that makes my life a bit difficult.
Thank you.
But Martin, success, come on, you are a high achiever. You do these crazy bike journeys, bike races, I would like to say. What makes you happy? What makes you unhappy?
It is nothing compared to what you do. Let me put
No,
it that way.
no, please.
But what I do is I really try to stay healthy and use my training to stay healthy and stay strong. When you get older, you have to do a lot more to keep your muscle working. So for me, I need to set a goal to do the training. I know I have to do the training to stay healthy, and so for me it works quite well in that triangle. And I just spend a lot of time doing sports, maybe 15 hours per week or 20 hours per week, and it's just good for everything: sleeping, eating, well-being, and attending meetings like this. You get good connections as well.
Yeah. You also said once that you are never tired because you are almost religious about your sleep.
Yeah. Good sleep is everything. Yeah.
So
And I measure the same way as you do with my Oura-ring. It's quite interesting when you work with the data. You can really see what impacts your body, your temperature, your heart rate, your sleeping patterns. So this information, if you work with that over time, I think it will make you a stronger person physically and mentally. But it's also about gadgets, and I like my gadgets, so it helps combining those two.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Yeah, and here, on my data, I can see that my heart rate variability is still really low. So the recovery process in the body takes surprisingly long, and that is I didn't know that before, so I learned it here. Okay, any more questions? Any more ideas on success? How do we set goals?
Yeah, I have one, if I may, again.
Please.
Now, when you're in the moment and you realize it's not going to go any further, and I remember years ago you had a similar kind of a situation in the Aconcagua, if I remember well, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Andes. Now, would you say it is a difference in the kind of disappointment that you feel in that moment, depending on whether you have to abandon due to weather, which is something you cannot influence, or whether you see that your physical condition doesn't allow you to go further? Is there a difference in the feeling of disappointment?
I think so, yes, because the physical the decision that you cannot move on because of your physical condition brings with it the idea that you didn't train enough, that you should have done better in preparing, that you perhaps made a mistake of not being efficient or wasting your energy on rotation that you should have been skipping, etc., etc. So you start just questioning the whole process. And it's like in business. I mean, it's like, suddenly the pandemic happens and you kind of accommodate and adjust to it, or you make you fail in a critical negotiation, or you don't reach your revenue goals, and then you you start questioning yourself, and that is, of course, yeah, not really productive, but you learn a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So if there's no more questions, I would like to say goodbye. Hopefully until next time, and have a great day.
Thank you. You too. Thank you.
And let's
Thank you,
continue
Susanne.
talking about these important things. Bye-bye.